Hello and welcome to the Taylor's Expression YouTube channel. My name is Theary and I am so excited to share two cards I created using the adorable Dino-Mite card kit. So let's get started. So here is a quick look at the Dino-Mite card kit. I love that everything is kept securely in the zipper sleeve. This kit has a birthday theme which is in celebration of Taylor's Expression 15th birthday. So what's included in this kit? This kit has washi tape that reads Hip Hooray. There are also enamel dots that coordinates with the theme color of the kit. The simple strip Dino-Mite stamp has super punny sentiment to go along with the dinosaurs. There are also a few envelope seals, Dino-Mite insiders, the Dino-Mite stamp, and the Dino-Mite layering stencil. So for the two cards that I will be creating today, I will also be using several other basic dies. So I am going to use stitch rectangle stacklets, stitch square stacklets, stitch frame stacklets, and also stitch circle stacklets. And I will also use cardstock in the colors Sweet Basil, Tropical Punch, Pumpkin, Toffee, Mocha, and Sugar Cube. The inks that I use are candy corn, chocolate truffle, mocha, sprinkle, confetti cake, guava, key lime, pumpkin, cherry pop, and Versamark clear ink. And of course, I will need blending brushes, some Copic markers, and a white gel pen, gold paint, and adhesive. Okay, I am going to start off by showing you how I created the backgrounds for both cards. Then I will show the process for each individual card. For one of the background, I trimmed down Toffee colored cardstock to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I am using my Misty stamping platform to stamp the images down with chocolate truffle ink pad. I had to stamp it twice to ensure I got a good impression. The Dino-Mite stamp creates the little details for our layering stencil. Before going directly in with the layering stencil, I like to use pixie spray to spray onto my stencil. The pixie spray is a temporary spray adhesive that allows your stencil to stick to your work surface without shifting during blending. I went ahead and sprayed my stencil off screen. So going in with the first layering stencil, I lined up the embossed details on the stencil with the stamp images on the cardstock. The first ink pad that I am using is candy corn. I am applying candy corn with my blending brushes only on the triceratops. What I like to do when I am coloring or ink blending is use more than one color to create dimension on my cards. I want to use at least 2 colors, but sometimes I would add a third color if the shading on the image isn't quite right. Using guava ink and cherry pop, I blended that on the Parantosaurus. And for the Ankylosaurus, I am using key lime and confetti cake ink. Looking at the color combinations, I felt I needed some darkness to add shading. So going in with the color chocolate truffle, I added a light touch to all the dinosaurs. Once I finished the first layer, I did the same thing to the second and third layers. Okay, and that completes the background for one of the cards. For the background for the second card, I stamped out the same image onto toffee colored cardstock and chocolate truffle ink. Then I applied my washi tape horizontally at an angle over the card panel. I really like how this washi tape is a little transparent, so it was a nice touch to add the details from the stamp image behind it. I folded over the washi tape to the back side of the card panel to secure it in place. So here's a look at both of the backgrounds that was just created. Super cute, right? Okay, so diving into the first card. I am using my paper trimmer to cut the card panel in half at an angle. I didn't realize that I made a technical error when trimming it in half, but that's okay. Mistakes happen and we just have to work around it. As you can see, when I trimmed it at an angle, I didn't pay attention to the words on the washi tape. I didn't realize that I trimmed it a little wonky, so I went back in and made sure to trim it down a little more to create an even look. Okay, so I wanted to attach the washi panel to a piece of Toffee cardstock. But before I did that, I wanted to add a little bit of texture to the cardstock. If you don't have a lot of background dies in your collection, you can use your scoreboard to create texture by scoring different patterns onto the cardstock. I started off by scoring down the middle of my card panel, then I scored at 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch at every whole number on the scoreboard. I then used my blending brushes and Mocha ink to ink around the edges of the card panel. Okay, now to create a frame around my card design. I am using stitch frame Stacklets and cutting that out of Tropical Punch cardstock. I also went ahead and cut it a few times out of sugar cube cardstock so that I can layer it together to create dimension. So I wanted the scored card panel to fit behind the stitch frame perfectly. I used the stitch rectangle Stacklets to trim down the scored card panel and the washi tape panel to ensure that it was a perfect fit. Now it's time to assemble everything together. I used a combination of foam squares and liquid adhesive to adhere everything in place. I started by gluing down the 2 washi tape panels down to the scored Toffee Cardstock. Then I added the Tropical Punch frame on top of it. Off screen, I used Stitch Circle Stacklet and cut that out of pumpkin cardstock. I then added a bit of ink blending to the edges of the circle to create a little dimension. To add even more texture to the circle die cut, I splattered gold paint all over. I popped it onto the card panel with foam squares and added a sweet sentiment from the Simply Stripped Dino-Mite stamp that I heat embossed onto mocha colored cardstock. I know the cute little dinosaurs are envelope seals, but I couldn't help using them as part of my card design. It's a great way to stretch out your supplies. I added the embellishment included in a kit. I also went in with my white gel pen to add highlights and details throughout. I adhered it to a top folding card base with liquid adhesive and attached one of the insiders inside the card. I also added one of the envelope sealers to the inside of the card to tie it together with the overall design. Okay, so now let's dive into the second card. Off screen, I used Stitch Rectangle Stacklets and Stitch Square Stacklets to cut the background panel. I also cut the same square stacklets out of white cardstock and blended sprinkle ink with a cloudy stencil to create the sky. Now for the hilltop, I used the Stitch Circle Stacklets and cut that out of sweet basil cardstock. I also used the same rectangle stacklets to cut the perfect piece to pop into the scene. I added gold paint splatters to give it a little more interest. Now to assemble everything together. Using Mocha Cardstock, I trimmed that to 5.5 by 4.25 inches to create a mat against my layered dinosaurs. I then popped all the pieces into place. I was a little impatient and didn't let the paint dry before I started assembling and had a couple paint smudges. But not to worry, I added an extra envelope seal to cover that area up. I adhered one of the sentiment from the Dino-Mite Simply Sentiment set and added embellishment to the scene. And finally, I added a sheet of the insiders to the inside of the card with another envelope sealer. And that's it! Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found some inspiration to get crafty. Please don't forget to like and hit the subscription button to get notified of any future videos. Okay, until next time, I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.